And that's your entertainment wrap-up for NBC News Radio right here on KCAA. I'm Andrew Caravella.
Welcome to Smart Health Talk with your host, Elaine McFadden.
Take a walk on the wild side. Will the birds and the bees survive? Right before me, my newfound hippie side. Once ignored these conspiracies online. Out the window, visions of the earth. Sign me up now, make sure you use your smart. Take a walk on the wild side. Will the birds and the bees survive? Would your children lie to see Mother Nature sigh?
Welcome to Smart Health Talk with your host, Elaine McFadden.
Welcome, everyone. This is Smart Health Talk Radio Show. And if you were wondering if you're at the right place, I'm here to tell you you are absolutely at the right place. And I'm your host, Elaine McFadden, your own personal dietitian and someone that actually cares about you. That's right. I didn't go back to school for 8.5 years for nothing. The whole idea is that I'd be trained to save lives. That was my goal. And I thought we could do that with food instead of waiting till people ended up in the hospital with surgery or maybe a long physical therapy because they had a stroke. Things like that are preventable. And that's what we're all about. We want to prevent. As a matter of fact, since I brought up heart attack, just to give you an idea of the kind of information you're going to find if you go to smarthealthtalk.com, our website for our radio show. If you scroll down on our front page there, you'll probably see someone having a heart attack. And if you click on that, you'll go to a page that I think is the best page out there on the internet because I did my research, looked at what every other group had, including the American Heart Association. And I think my page is better if you want to know what to do. If you have a heart attack, you're by yourself, you're not sure what the symptoms are, and if you think it's all the same for men and women, that's not true, because it's actually the symptoms are different for women than they are for men. And I think that is a life-saving page right there, because what's the number one killer in the United States? Heart disease. Yeah, of course, opioid deaths are starting to really climb, and so is women's lung cancer. It used to be actually a major disease for men more than women. So I don't know if women are smoking trying to lose weight, but I got to tell you, I was working hard today to get in here trying to, I don't know, I guess I sat in front of the TV watching the royal wedding and everyone in their Sunday best, as I think was mentioned at one point. And I wanted to play dress up too, but I was just happened to put on a dress that I had that I can't even remember the last time I wore this dress. I mean, we're talking years, okay? But I can tell you I wore this dress for a New Year's Eve on the Queen Mary. Hey, Brandon, you ever been to the Queen Mary, Brandon McCormick?
I haven't.
You haven't?
No.
Oh, you haven't?
I have not.
Oh, I spent the night on there.
How was it?
It was great. And the New Year's Eve party was great because they had different levels. They had these huge rooms on there. And so they had like different era music, you know, like from the 50s or the 80s. And so you could just go from like venue to venue on the Queen Mary on the New Year's Eve party there. and dance to all kinds of music, just kind of hit the new place and watch the fireworks. That is if there's no fog, because I've been there when it was foggy for the fireworks, and that didn't work out too well. But I thought it was a great bargain, and you're just staying on the boat, so you're not getting in too much trouble. Although we did have like one incident once, but we were able to diffuse that one, thank goodness. But yeah, but the thing is, the point I'm trying to make, okay, is that I am in this dress. I'm going to stand up because, if you tune in to Smart Health Talk live, you can watch it live on KCAAradio.com. If you go there, you can see our video right here in the studio, and watch me right here. Which, oh yeah, big thrill, right? Watch this old lady, that she finally, I have a pretty flat stomach here. Check it out. Okay. How about that, huh? Pretty flat stomach there. The thing is, I'm a dietitian, okay? I'm supposed to be able to help people lose weight. Well, I became my own experiment when I was bombarded by so many pesticides that messed up my thyroid, which I don't think I'm alone in there. I think there's like quite a few people that have been victims of this pesticide use, and they don't even make the connections. The thyroid is actually very vulnerable to these pesticides. And I didn't have thyroid cancer, but I did have the symptoms. And so I immediately started eating for my thyroid and working on, I had never weighed that much, even when I was 9 months pregnant. It was humiliating to me, and I was just like, what the heck happened? And I think what happens is the symptoms fogging your brain, kind of taking away this motivation to want to take care of yourself, even depression. All of these things can come with thyroid disease, and I definitely was going through those things. So I just decided, okay, I'm going to heal myself, and I believe that the freshest organic food that you can possibly get your hands on, and I'm talking fruits and vegetables, number one there, of course, beans, nuts, these concentrated foods that are packing the most nutrition. Every single calorie I eat, I want to be that concentrated nutrition, because you know what? I happen to love this body because it's my only body, and I happen to want to be around for a while and enjoy my life and my children for the most that I feel like I'm at a point right now where I'm happier than ever. I did the work, and I'm here with you guys, which I absolutely love. So, the thing is, you have to decide, I'm doing this. You have to be committed and say, and you're going to mess up. Accept it. But just because you mess up for one day or you splurge a little bit, that doesn't mean that you abandon all your hard work into that point. And that was my motto. That was my philosophy. And if I wasn't hungry, I'm not eating. Because there's a lot of different diets out there. Oh, you got to eat 6 small meals a day. It's just like, that is not me. All I do is end up being hungry, because that is not enough. I'm used to meals. I want a full meal, and I want everything at the meal at one time and enjoy it. And I want to feel full at the end of it and take a nap and whatever else. But I want some homemade food with the best ingredients, with the best source, and the most concentrated nutrition. And so that was my philosophy, and I bought from local farmers, fresh organic, or grew a few things myself, and wasn't eating when I was hungry. And as far as exercise go, I was the queen of exercise. I used to work out 3 hours a day. And this was not a normal workout. I mean, this was like max workout, as much as you could push yourself. And I was just like, at this age, when you hit 60, it's just like, I can't do that. And plus the fact that I was battling this disease, and I wanted my body to heal, and all that exercise was going to put a huge burden on my body. And plus the fact that all this pesticides are stored in our fat cells. And as you're burning fat, it's being released into your body. And my body is already a victim of pesticides. I don't need to be dumping large amounts. And that's why I'm not a big supporter of quick weight loss. Even like, working out like every single day per week, because I want something that's permanent. I never want to go back to where I was at. Never. So how am I going to achieve that? Well, it's a lifestyle. You have to just get used to the way you're eating. And that means you're not eating most of the time. You have your really good meal. I would sometimes have 2 meals a day, but it would be like only the best stuff. And I'm going to start, I had to wait and see if I could do this. My exercise has been yard work, basically, and really pushing myself out in the yard to do lots of things. And I would be sore and hardly able to move. So I knew I was pushing myself. And so I let that be a way to get my strength back, because I hadn't worked out for so long. And then, well, except for like light work in the backyard. And then I just kept building up. And I felt doing that, I wasn't causing any permanent, because I have a weak a tendon in my knee that gets pulled, and I have different other problems. And I thought if I push too hard, too fast, I may not even realize it, and I may really hurt myself. And then it's negative reinforcement, and then you're in pain, and then you can't even work out. So you screw yourself. Basically, by doing that, you sabotage yourself. And if you also go to our Smart Health Talk homepage, you'll find Smart Health Talk resolutions. And we have 10 Smart Health Talk resolutions with multiple suggestions. Like our most popular one of all is vegan. Our meatless number 10, Smart Health Talk resolution number 10. And I tell you, that was like my most visited page of all, because people are really starting to get that eating more plant foods. And I tell you, I got to call out Country Crock for their big line of crock that they tell during their commercials, because they're all like, oh yeah, this highly processed product that we turn into a margarine type product here has a plant source. And let me tell you, that plant source is concentrated pesticides, concentrated GMOs. There is no way I'm eating their Country Crock. Oh, they have now, some of these are coming out with organic versions. Well, you know what? That doesn't fit in my model, because all these processed foods, stuff that comes in a box that has been changed, I will have a little bit of Nature's Best cereal. Mostly, though, I just choose oatmeal. And when I start getting, I have a couple of go-tos when I start getting the sweet tooth. I think I want something sweet. I'll have a packet of oatmeal, and then I'll put some brown sugar in it. And then I put lots of the really good raw milk that I get, and water. And, oh yeah, and then I put my grass-fed butter in there too. So that's kind of like my, I'm getting omega-3s, I'm getting my oatmeal, I'm getting my fiber. Okay, I put some sugar in there, but of course there's lots of choices for sugar. You could put stevia if you can take it. I personally, so many people think they're eating the stevia plant, but they're actually eating a synthetic chemical that came from the stevia. And organic source, I think it's still like going to be a processed food, because the only thing that is approved is not the stevia plant. It's one chemical in the stevia plant. So that's why it has the taste that it does. Sunrider is the one that I always used. You can get it on Amazon. It's a little squeeze bottle, and it's cold pressed whole plant. They can't call it a sweetener, though. They have to call it something else, but it's because the whole stevia plant isn't approved. My other go-to is Organic Valley cottage cheese with pineapple. But I tell you, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. If you want the ultimate taste experience, you take California Farms has a caramel, And okay, that one is in the processed food area, and the sugar area, but it's just such a small amount. And sometimes if you can find something like that has so much flavor and complements the flavor of the pineapple, for one thing, it's like caramelized pineapple, then you're satisfied and you're not going to that piece of cake, the piece of pie, the cookies, the muffins, the cupcakes, all these the bread. You have to have something that's going to be satisfying for you. Now, I wanted to we have a guest that's going to be joining our show today that was with us last week, and she worked at a vector department, the San Joaquin vector department. And during her time there was a lot of things going on, and she knew from her own sickness that she got from working there that it was not good, but also the things that she saw happening to other people, people not following procedures and rules and hiding things. I mean, so many things going on, and these are any vector control department, well, most all, I think, are not even controlled by anybody. There's no one overseeing what they're doing. So that's one of the reasons why we're having this whistleblower on our show, is we have to find out where these weaknesses are in our system, because these weaknesses can be sucking millions of dollars of funding towards something that isn't even a problem, and they may even be creating problems. And here, that money could be going for some other good cause, instead of poisoning all of us, poisoning our environment, wiping out our beneficial insects, and creating an imbalance in our whole system, and I believe in our bodies. And for me, it was getting that balance back again. And I am finally starting to feel like myself, and it feels good. And I'm glad this is working, because I didn't have to go out there and do 3 hours of exercise a day, and I was able to achieve these kind of goals. And so I want that for you too. But the bottom line, calories in, calories out. And you got to make those calories count with every single bit of nutrition, and don't be poisoning yourself, because not just that, and if you may, all these commercials for Febreze, and now they're starting to say, oh, we're using essential oils. Well, the problem is the essential oils they're using, they were removed with benzene, which is a carcinogenic substance, and the benzene is still present in those oils. Organic oils are the only thing that I will accept. And so we have these fake fragrances. I can't believe they actually came out with new Febreze products. It's like just every single way. And when I watch those commercials, people smelling their t-shirts like they have to have a fix for Febreze fix, where they got to stuff their face in their shirt and get a whiff of it. It reminds me of that time that I was terrified when I went over to some kid's house back in high school, and they were whiffing. They were whiffing out of the bag with paint, and I was just like, no friggin' way am I doing that. That looks to me like one of those things that destroys your brain cells. And guess what? I was right. Even back then, as someone that really didn't know anything, I just couldn't even believe what I was seeing. But it reminds me of that. People whiffing the chemicals in that paint out of the bag. For some reason, that whole thing just reminds me of the same thing. People addicted to it. That's what they try to portray themselves. So, oh, this is so great. You'll be addicted to it. You'll have to have it. Well, not only is that a hormone disruptor that is messing up your body, but it's also, because it's a hormone disruptor, it's making you fat. So you are bombarding your body every single day with all these fake fragrances, including, those perfumes that you're buying, your shampoo, your lotion, All these things have fake fragrance in them. Your air wick, your Febreze that you're using, the clothes, the fabric softener, all this stuff has these chemicals that are making you fat. You're wondering, why am I not losing weight? Why am I not losing weight? And I was watching that Kardashian Revenge Body, and they like kicked that one girl out because she just couldn't seem to lose weight. I was kind of pissed off about that one. Because I'm like, God, give the poor girl a break. You guys are pumping her full of these, I don't even know what kind of foods. Are they organic foods or not? I saw the other guy drinking her husband drinking muscle powder that I know it's full of GMO. So, I'm just wondering what they're feeding her. And they're like, oh, well, it's probably a gut problem. Yeah, it's probably a gut problem after you've been feeding them and they've been eating these foods full of pesticides, and most people out there have a gut problem. And part of what's helped me lose my weight is I've been using raw milk, and people are just like, oh gosh, no, that's no one has died of raw milk. Lots of people have died of lettuce and cantaloupe and these other things that are full of E. coli from factory farms, excrement that's come from the factory farms, but people are not dying from raw milk. So just don't buy into these things. Do your own research. I'm going to try to get some more videos done. Actually, I have another thing that I did the past week, working on. I lost feeling in my arm. I pulled it out of place before. I couldn't even hardly feel my hand anymore. Man, I went on trying to heal my arm kind of thing, and it hurt like heck. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how much it hurt. But I'm so excited that my hand feels good again. I can actually use my hand. I was able to cure myself of that through massage. But not just any massage. I mean, getting down deep, pulling that tissue, really getting in there, even though it was all I could do to even touch my arm. And then I gave myself a non-surgical facelift, and I want to show a video of how to do that as well, because you don't realize how much stress you have just in your face. And I am one of the worst for that, and I got terrible headaches. And then the past week I was exposed to Vicane, which is the termite pesticide that they use, for the third time in less than a year. I couldn't even hardly think. It causes the excitation in your neurotransmitters, and you get all jittery. I was like going through crying spells with that too. I threw up the morning of the next day after being exposed to that. I mean, just all these symptoms that I had after, because they literally released that gas from the tent right next to my house. So okay, we're gonna take a little break here, and then we're gonna be coming back. And do we have Tiffany on the line yet? Okay, we have Tiffany on the line, so we're gonna get into some things with her and find out the down and dirty of what goes on down at our Vector department. So we'll be right back.
Sign me up now, make sure.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, K292FQ Riverside, and K293CF Moreno Valley.
Real facts, real lives, real science is what you get when you tune in to Smart Health Talk radio show every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. We want our listeners armed with the latest information, no matter who we have to call out in the process. No corporate cloaking, no repeats of what you've already heard over and over. We bring what you're not getting from other shows. We're looking for what's having an impact on Americans' lives every day and into the future. I'm your host, Elaine McFadden. I'd like to invite you to learn with us. We're always there with podcasts and videos on KCAA YouTube and iHeartRadio, or live on KCAA Radio, 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every Tuesday. If you're one of those people lucky enough to have a memory of raising monarch caterpillars and watching them magically transform into beautiful butterflies, then chances are it's one of your most cherished memories, the kind that brings a smile to your face every time you think of it. Blue Monarch Project, along with KCAA Radio and their very own Smart Health Talk, are sponsoring a weekly plant sale. We want to help make new monarch memories with our children possible, because you can't have monarch caterpillars without milkweed. Revisit that experience you had as a child, create new ones and share them, or just help monarch butterflies and their babies with what they need right now. Safe milkweed. Find us every Sunday from 11 to 5 p.m. in the Redlands Tri-City parking lot at 1378 Industrial Park Avenue. Expect to find milkweed and beautiful flowers that butterflies and hummingbirds love, all grown without chemicals or pesticides that can hurt butterflies and people too. Go to BlueMonarchProject.com for more information.
Miss something today, yesterday, last week? Check out our podcasts at www.kcaaradio.com. We leave no listener behind.
Welcome back. Elaine McFadden here from Smart Health Talk, and we've been talking about losing weight by not breathing a bunch of fake fragrances and eating organic food, because all those pesticides end up in your fat, which also makes you gain weight. And when I started following my eating philosophy and just getting active out in my yard, I was able to lose like 35 pounds just doing that. And I now have a flat stomach I think it's from all the raw milk and the good fiber I'm getting. And we'll be getting into that more. I was hoping to get a few videos and my recipes that I've developed also up on our website. I've just been so busy working with our Blue Monarch project. And if you heard in our little promo there, we're here every Sunday from 11 to 5 with plants for monarch butterflies, because here and many other places around the country and the world, monarch butterflies have dwindled down like over 90%. And it's loss of milkweed, too much pesticides, and so many of the places you go to get plants spray the plants. So with these pesticides that stay in there for long periods of time and kill at extremely low doses. So we have our Blue Monarch Project nursery. We're growing milkweed plants for monarchs and all kinds of other plants that we bring over here to the KCAA parking lot at 1378 Industrial Park Avenue, across the street from the Big Lots parking lot over there. We're on the other side of the street, and you can't miss us with our tent out there and all our plants, me sitting out there on Sunday 11 to 5. And I'd really like it if you came down and just said hi, come and check out what we have. But most of all, I'd like it if you come and get some milkweed and start helping our monarchs have a place to lay their eggs and have their babies, because they fly around looking for milkweed, and there's none there. It's very sad. And it's such a great experience. It's so much fun, and it's a really wonderful thing to be sharing with your kids as well. Now, I just wanted to do a couple of quick announcements on some things that are going on. First of all, we wanted to see the big merger between Monsanto and Bayer has been approved by our government. Thank you so much, government, for creating these giant monopolies that are controlling virtually everything we eat every single day, along with lots of other things. But when you buy organic, we can cut those people out and we can start giving them all our money. So I really want to encourage people to be proactive, at least with that, if you could at least do that. And a new study came out. I've been sitting here talking to you about good nutrition and how many great things it can do for your body. And I have a perfect example here on just how much nutrition saves you, and in ways you wouldn't even think about. How about your hearing? Do you like your hearing? You appreciate your hearing? Do you have hearing loss and wish you didn't? Well, it turns out there's actually a relationship between nutrition and hearing loss. And the people that followed the healthy, like the Mediterranean diets and that, they actually had less hearing loss, and it was very significant. So there's another reason that you should be listening to Smart Health Talk and taking my advice, because that's what I'm only going to try to point you in the best direction possible. Wouldn't steer you the wrong way. Now, I want to welcome our guest to the show, Tiffany. Hey, Tiffany. Tiffany Anderson. Hi, it's Tiffany Anderson, and she's going to be talking to us today about the kind of stuff that happens at the Vector Department. And we want to know this because these people have been in your yard spraying poison. So you have an organic garden. It's not an organic garden anymore. And this,
it's called a co-op. It's called a co-op agreement. And it's an agreement it's a government agreement which gives the vector control every year the vector control. First of all, they are self-insured, and so that you can find them at the Office of Self-Insured. You can find their policy. You can see how many vector controls are actually on their joint power authority. But you are absolutely correct, because with this co-op agreement, it gives us the right to enter people's property without their knowledge. When there are certain properties out, like in the agriculture, or even when I worked out on the islands, where I just went, I could go anywhere I wanted without asking permission. When you're going house to house, you do have to ask permission to go in the backyards.
But what if no one's there? Can you just go anyway and leave a note?
No, that's not recommended, because they do not want to be sued. But when we had the foreclosures, and Tracy was hit pretty hard. Tracy and Stockton were hit really hard when our homes started to get foreclosed upon, and people from the Bay Area the commuters were buying the homes. And when the bubble burst, we had just a huge amount of vacant swimming pools, and so employees did start.
I heard about that was a big problem, because there were deserted houses everywhere.
Oh yeah, there were
abandoned
vacant houses. It was like a ghost town in some areas. Yeah. But the planes, no matter what, the planes are still, when they have the go to fly their planes, which they do pretty frequently, that it doesn't pick and choose whose property they're spraying over. So even if you think you're organic, there's drift.
Yes, and that's really the sad thing. But one of the good things, though, about organic produce, that yes, there is some contamination from the drift, but even when they test it, it's like 97-98% pesticide free, which compared to
what? Yes.
Yeah, compared to conventional, where you're getting multiple pesticides, and you don't even know if they put on the proper formulas. And what can that happen very often, Tiffany? That people, when they mix up pesticides themselves, that from concentrates, that they're not doing it right.
Elaine, let's start with when I was hired. I had no pesticide background. By law, it was a requirement that who has the authority over it? It's the California Department of Public Health. They have the authority under Title 17 of the California Code of Regulations. And the individuals employed by San Joaquin County or by any vector control district, they must carry a license to spray pesticides, because the government is more lenient on the vector control districts, because we are supposed to be more trained. But when I was hired there, I was hired with another gentleman. In my county, we had 19 zones. So we took our county and we broke it up into 19 sections. And two of us for 1 year we were not even trained or licensed. We should not have even been working out in the fields and spraying pesticides. So you bet. I mean, this is embarrassing, but probably within my first 3 months, I actually sprayed a person with pesticides. But they won't, when they're liable, they won't document those things. Those things kind of lose themselves in a file, because they knew that I wasn't licensed and they were liable. They start collecting that data after you're licensed. But not only were out of 19 territories, 2 were not licensed, we also had about 3 vacant zones from people that were injured or not working there. So we were understaffed, undertrained while I was there. Then you talk about the doses, and can there be a mix-up? Absolutely. One of it's not funny by any means, but one of the ironic things was that we were on a paper system. Like, everything was documented on paper records, which was really nice, because those don't seem to disappear. But what they started to do is they started to integrate new computer systems. They wanted to put those out in the field with the technicians. And they never used the technicians to help create the programs. They would just create this program, and they would always want to administer this new format at the beginning of mosquito season. So not only were we trying to do our job, but we were also trying to learn a whole new computer system. And we would go out with these handheld devices, and we were supposed to record all the data, all the pesticide that we sprayed was supposed to go into these systems, and then they would not work. And so by law, we're supposed to report every month. We're supposed to have an annual reporting to the ag department. And how do you report spraying with computers that don't work? So we're putting in the data, we bring it back, and then when they shoot out the report, there's nothing there. We had about 5 of those computer systems, that handheld devices that we tried to implement within the time period that I worked there.
So I was just talking to the Department of Agriculture yesterday, and I know that they get reports from production and non-production. And when I had asked for what they get like for a year, I never heard anything about the vector departments.
Yeah, you won't hear much about vector. You won't hear much about vector from EPA. You won't hear much about vector from OSHA. Any governing agent, the way
because no one governs them. There's no one watching them or checking their accountability. Not even the state. Does the state ever come out?
Well, okay, so I filed many complaints. I filed OSHA complaints. I actually had I had the Department of Toxic Pesticide Regulations come out and inspect. The grand jury came out, and they referred the findings to the district attorney's office, and nobody will touch them. They bring in so much revenue with their state of emergency that so what happens is our state, California, I find to be very corrupt, and our state they want their money in the coffers. They put their hands out for the federal funding, and so if OSHA governs so by law, if there's any injuries at work, my employer is required by law to inform OSHA.
And OSHA is like, let's, in case people don't know what OSHA is, Tiffany, that's like the governing body that makes sure that people have safe working conditions. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yes, that is correct. And they have very strict and stringent guidelines when it comes to pesticides. Like an employer, I will have to pull aside, and we will go through the OSHA standards verbatim, but just off the cuff, the employer is required by law, if we go to see the doctor at all for any workers' comp, for any injuries at work, the employer is, even if it's first aid, because it's related to pesticides, by law they are required to report it to OSHA. My employer does not report anything to OSHA. And then when I actually contacted OSHA, they do not enforce their own laws that are on the books.
Is that from lack of staffing? Maybe there's just not enough people to go out there, or they know. I'll just share really quick one incident that I went through that demonstrated I had the same conclusion you did, Tiffany, and that was when I was in Hawaii. There was an infestation going around of cucumbers with E. coli, and it was several states. And I went out to dinner and I ate cucumbers, and I had a horrible pain that was like nonstop for days. And I called the health department in Hawaii, And they lied to me about different things. They lied to me saying that they grow most of their food, and that's a total lie because they actually import most of their food. And then he said that there was like no other, cases. So he pretty much, what I figured out after talking to him, he did not want to report my case. Because then Hawaii looks like, there's food poisoning happening in Hawaii, which could impact tourists.
Right.
They're announcing it. Oh yeah, we found an infestation in Hawaii, and people are like, oh my God. And then it probably triggers a whole cascade of different things because even one case.
I'm surprised because Hawaii, in all my research trying to find like-minded people, somebody who cares about pesticide poisoning, Hawaii seemed to be the front runner of we do not want
this was the health department, Tiffany. It wasn't,
right.
It had nothing to do with the pesticides. So
this is what I found. Well, first of all, okay, OSHA has laws. They have, you even have like a code that this is code such and such of the federal regulations. So my big question is, okay, when I'm reading their rules and what they are to enforce, it says an employer must. Okay, so when it says must, that's not a suggestion. That's supposed to be, something that it's a rule. But if OSHA is not going to do their job, and if they're not going to enforce their own laws, then why do they exist?
Well, that explains why they're not raising a red flag, the fact that particular vector department had not reported any problems. Because I would think that would be an exception to the rule. I would think that, of course, there's going to be problems and accidents that happen on the job.
You would think as a pesticide applicator that the idea of getting pesticide poisoning is not like a far stretch. I mean, it's part of the hazard of the job. It even says it on the labels. But OSHA has never taken seriously. There's a few elements that OSHA should be looking at the vector control. One is that this agency does not report any injuries, period. Two, that the agency, all that OSHA would have to do is go to the workers' comp board and look and see how many filings for workers' comp claims there are for the vector control district, like I did, and you will see that each one of those should have had they should have reported it to OSHA, but they didn't. So OSHA should just by default go into those go into the workers' comp board and pull out those filings, and they should be fining Vector for not reporting those.
Who does this hurt, Tiffany? When the system isn't working like it's supposed to, OSHA's not doing their job. They're not the Vector department isn't reporting these accidents to employees. Who gets hurt when that happens?
Everyone. First of all, the front line, the employees. I've had a coworker die at the age of 59 from being poisoned to formaldehyde without his permission or without his knowledge. One employee was bleeding from his esophagus at the workplace multiple times, where the fire department had to respond, and our employer did not report it. See, my employer, they think they're doctors, so they like to diagnose people. So they kind of cut out the middleman. They don't really need anybody else. As they are self-governed, they do believe that they're doctors. And so the guy bleeding from his esophagus, they just said that was from Agent Orange from when he was in Vietnam. Even though the correlation of his side effects go right along with the formaldehyde use.
And was there a history before he worked at the Vector department of nosebleeds?
It wasn't nosebleeds. It was bleeding from his esophagus.
Oh, yeah, bleeding from his esophagus. Did he have a history before he even worked there?
We have not, him and I have never talked. Okay, so how did I find out about the formaldehyde being used for 10 years without any employees'
Because that's not something that you normally use at the vector department.
That is not something that they ever reported to the public, to the ag department, on their NPDES permit, which means in order to operate as a business, they have to report that. It's a federal regulation. No, it was never reported on their NPDES permits. Not from what I just learned on one of my trips. Not all vector controls use any aquaculture products on their fish, because the fish are indigenous to the wild. The fish are made to be, they're scavengers. They don't even need to be raised.
So this was an aquaponic, there's an aquaponic system at the vector department that they put fish in the sewage water because they help to clean the water.
No, that's not. No, you've got it a little backwards.
Okay,
what happened,
explain.
What I believe is, this is the way I understand it. Our city has the sewer, has our White Slough water facility treatment plant. And, there's a lot of regulations with sewage and what you can and cannot do with it. So a great alternative for our sewer plant out at the White Slough facility was to allow the vector control to create these. I think there's 13 fish rearing ponds out there, and it's non-potable water that they use. So what's happening is that the water is not healthy. The water itself was creating funguses and bacteria on our fish because it's not clean water, it's non-potable water. And mind you, Elaine, me as an employee was required to work in these trap ponds on a daily basis. We'd have to take a 100-foot seine and we'd have to, pull the fish out of the ponds. So the reason why they were using all these products, the aquaculture products, was because they are not using the proper water. They're not, the water. It all starts from bad management, from bad decisions, from bad.
So there's something in the system that isn't actually releasing water into the aquaponics system that isn't at the level of cleanliness it's supposed to be. So they're like shortcutting the filtering.
Correct. But I don't mean to cut you off.
No.
But it's not an aqua system. They are earthened ponds, which means that everything that they are putting into those ponds is leaching into the ground, and anything that is west of I-5 is below the water table. So it's already in the water system, not to mention that it's going in the ponds, but now it's below the water level.
Well, explain to people what formaldehyde is, because as a pesticide applicator that works with these different chemicals, you understand. I mean, people may think of it as like, oh yeah, that's what the mortician uses to embalm people. What is she talking about putting it in water?
They use it to preserve dead people. They don't use it on life. I've learned a lot about formaldehyde and formalin out of a necessity. So my employer did not tell me, like required by law. The district attorney, actually the grand jury contacted me and told me the district attorney wanted to talk with me. And I had filed a complaint with the grand jury about mismanagement and about sexual harassment and hostile work environment. And an apathetic board. So I had no idea about this criminal aspect of poisoning the employees. But
we have 2 minutes, Tiffany. So,
okay, there's no way I will be. The formaldehyde that they used was 37% formaldehyde mixed with a methanol gas, methyl alcohol gas.
And so I think since we only have a couple minutes left, I want to get into this whole formaldehyde issue, because I know that's happening other places too, like the salmon containment pens. They're also dumping formaldehyde in the pens for the lice problem.
and they're saying that it's fine, but let's revisit the formaldehyde. And
well, we'll start there next
okay.
week. Well, are you next week is election, so we're going to skip that week.
No, I can go ahead.
Okay, you can make it next week.
Yes, I will. And what I want to say was today is my my boss. He died at age 59. His son lost both of his parents as a result of the things that have gone on with this district. His name is Jake. I want to wish Jake a happy birthday, and just I want to honor his parents. And I thank you so much, Elaine, for this platform.
Well, I know, Tiffany, one of the reasons you're here is you're concerned about all the employees that are still working at this Vector department. So I really appreciate you coming on, and we'll just try to sort through all this and get the information out, and maybe we can start problem solving.
Perfect.
Well, okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Smart Health Talk. I'm your host, Elaine McFadden. Please find us on social media. We're posting all the time new information that you probably haven't heard of, because we dig deep for the real truth, right? And that's what we try to bring you. And I hope that you learned something today about your bodies and how maybe to control your diet and start on a weight loss program, and maybe you can replicate some of my success. And we're accessible, Elaine at smarthealthtalk.com. And please go check out Blue Monarch Project and come and visit us next Sunday right here at the KCAA parking lot, 1378 Industrial Park Avenue.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
So, you want to be in show business. Do people tell you that you're